I think it's more of a service industry than a sales industry. I think the sales is probably the bit that comes at the end. Do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't do it or if you can't achieve it, tell them the truth and tell them fast.
It's not hard to give good service in real estate. You just got to call people back. That's as simple as it is. I would say everyone, you can go and speak to anyone who's bought and sold a property and ask them where they come unstuck with their real estate agent, and that'll be because he just didn't call me. And it is hard to call someone to give them bad news. It's hard to call them when you've got no news to call them. But you need to find reasons to call them. Even if you're just calling them and say, how are you, Mr. Vendor? Just letting you know that I've booked your ad and it looks great. Point of contact. Call them up, say, how are you, Mr. Vendor? Just letting you know that the open for inspection this weekend is at this time. I will be there on time and I'll give you feedback on Monday. You know, I try to find small things to contact them with, so you stay in touch. The longer you leave it without contacting a vendor, the worse it gets, the harder it gets to call them.
If a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. Even if you don't sell a house, you know, because you don't sell everything, at least they can say, well, you know, you did your best. Communication's probably the main criticism that agents get. You don't communicate enough to your clients. Well, that's easy to do. You can pick up the phone twice a week even just to say, look, you know, we haven't had any new inquiry. But at least you're delivering a service there and letting them know what's happening. I read an article about Michael Schumacher, the Formula One champion, and he was asked the question, when are you the most stressed during a race? And a lot of people might have thought that the answer would be at the beginning of the race, at the start. His answer was when he's in the pit stop, because he has no control. And vendors get... The only way they can have control is if they know what's going on. And if they feel they don't have control because there's no communication and they don't know what's going on, well, then they're going to get stressed and they're going to think, well, you're not doing anything.
On the Saturday, they'll get the card, the written card by me, congratulating them on their preparation of the home. Mondays, I follow up all the buyers that came through the open home. The seller will get a written report on the name of everyone that came through, what their feedback was and the price that they now saw it sitting at, and they'll get a phone call from myself. So that's 2 contacts. Wednesday is a text message, hits on the internet, the viewings, the interest that's shown over the internet. Friday is what I've been doing through the week, what preparations and how many buyers I have interested and have teed up for the open home on the coming Saturday. So they've got the Saturday, the Monday, the Wednesday and the Friday. That's 4 contacts. You can always throw in an email with that for that letter, so there's 5 contacts. That's more than most agents will do. And the biggest complaint is my agents listed the house and I haven't heard from them for 2 weeks.
I love this topic.
Service delivery.
Because, you know, even though people understand that they don't do it well, they still don't seem to fix it.
You know, the number one complaint of any service industry in the world is communication. And every single one of our interviewees here said communication. Ring them, talk to them, tell, like Kingsley, you know, establish the expectation first so you can exceed it. I'll be there between 10 and 15:15, you get there a bit early. So it's easy to exceed the expectation if you first establish it. But every single one of them was all about communication, keeping your vendors informed.
You know, if it's this simple, this was the question. Tell us about your service. What do you do that's special in this area? How is it that without any exception, everybody has said communication? That is not an accident.
No, absolutely not.
That is not an accident.
Do you know when Luke and you know?
Hey, before there was no discussion with these guys. You didn't sort of settle this up, did you?
No. This was their answers to this question, and even Luke said, you know, he gives exceptional service because his clients tell him, and he admits himself that he falls down and then says, there must be some really bad agents out there because sometimes I get it seriously wrong, which is a surprisingly frank acknowledgement, but he still delivers exceptional service and understands why he delivers it. And once again, it's all about communication. Greg's final comment, just as right at the end there, the biggest complaint
is that they haven't heard from you for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, running a large organisation, in our own case, the complaints end up invariably with the CEO or myself. And do you know what the biggest complaint is? This. Whenever there's a problem, it's nearly always gets back to the lack of communication. And by communication, effective communication, some excellent material in here about that. Several of them, I think Kingsley made notes here. Definitely Luke went into detail about, here we go, Luke. Ask how often you want communication, so frequency. Yep. Second, how do you want it delivered?
Yes.
Right? How do you want it delivered? And then if you take the example of email or the phone, you have to drill deeper than, is it, in other words, is it electronic, so it's non-intrusive, it's there when they want it, sitting there when they want it, or is it by phone because they want to hear your voice? But then you need to go to the next level, and this came through very clearly. Is it at home? If it's at home, what time? Because if you're constantly ringing at dinner time, how annoying would that be for your client? So you think you're doing the right thing. You're getting them because they're home, but you're getting them, well, or their favourite program on TV, you're getting them at the wrong time. So very important, if you want to be special at service, to really understand your client, and it's come through. There's another rule that came through. Must have feedback by the close of business, so speed and the importance and the fact that a client is hanging off every moment of that sale while we as salespeople are out there doing 10 opens on a weekend. To us, it's just another open, like the Life of Brian with the gondolas.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen it?
Yes,
That's
I have.
cool. We won't go on air with that one, but we have to understand that their home, and we never forget this, is their home.
Yeah. Do you know, the point you're making there is absolutely right. It doesn't matter if you think you're giving good service. That means nothing. What means something is whether the client perceives you're giving good service. And that could be anywhere from, as you said, establishing whether you want a phone call once a day, once a week, once an hour. If you think once every couple of days is fantastic service and your client thinks it's not, well, guess who's right? It's the client who matters. It's not whether you think you're giving good service, it's whether they think they're receiving it or they perceive they're receiving it. Now, do you have a Toops tip for this one?
I've got two. Is that overdoing it?
No, you can have two Toops tips if you like.
Because they're related, directly related. There is nothing more persuasive or powerful than the truth. Number two, Toops tip is, and this fits with this whole communication thing, in my view, the Toops tip. The nervous system of the real estate industry is communication. If it isn't functioning, you're guaranteed pain.